Welcome to the Cherrypicker Podcast. We're here for another episode here with CEO Paul Bianco of Graphite Financial. They're the leader of startup VC finance and accounting outsourced services. They have about 100 employees here in the New York area. We're really excited to talk to him about what it's like to work there, what they look for in potential candidates. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on.
Good.
We're really excited to chat and learn a little bit more about the company and share what it's like to work at Graphite, what you guys look for in potential candidates. Obviously, we want to jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at Graphite, growth trajectory, company culture. Tell us what's going on there to share with our audience that's maybe interested in joining Graphite Financial, or they're curious, never heard about it before. Tell us a little bit about the company.
Sure. Yeah. So Graphite was started in late 2016 with the premise that early stage startups probably need a lot more help than traditional small businesses, just because the rate at which they grow and the rate of change is so significant. So we jumped in and we created a company that can actually scale with the nuances of venture capital backed companies and really support them from start to finish, from seed, series A and B and beyond. Maybe not IPO, usually they build an internal team at that point, but scale quite a bit. Turns out that was correct. Very lucky that over this amount of time, it's only been, from 2016 until late 2016, more like 2017 till now, we've gone from basically nothing to almost 100 folks, hundreds of clients, and continuing to grow from there.
Awesome. So you cover everything from financial modeling, fully outsourced bookkeeping, accounting services, tax compliance, interim CFO work. That sounds like you could be obviously very valuable to startups. So any startups that are watching here, obviously Paul is the founder. So if you ever have any needs for that and to outsource your accounting function, I think it sounds like a really good company to work with. So tell us a little bit about your team now, how many accountants you have, how many financial analysts you have, and I guess what you might be looking for in the future in a potential employee.
Largest part of our team is what we call controller services, which is everything from the bookkeeping, accounts payable, closing the books, month-end reporting. So that makes up the team that's doing the work for clients. That's probably about 75 to 80% of the team. So we have quite a bit of demand internally for accountants, everything from basically bookkeeper all the way through kind of a corporate controller level person. And then alongside that, we also have an FP&A team. That's more your analyst doing the financial modeling, more kind of CFO and strategic level work. And that's, a chunk too. And then we have a quickly growing tax practice as well. That's a small handful of folks now, but I could see that, tripling or quadrupling within a year. So that's kind of where it's at.
Awesome.
I think that's probably where we will focus is important. We'll probably focus mainly there with a couple other add-on services down the road.
That's awesome. So do you typically hire out of public accounting or maybe somebody who's done the hands-on work already at either another startup or a corporation? Is there somebody specific that you guys target when you're looking to hire?
Yeah, it's very, very tricky. And I've learned the hard way, and I've learned, well by, I think accidentally early on hiring the right people for the job, and then just kind of saying, hey, we need another person like this. We need another person like this. That's how we started. It was nothing fancy, really. It was, let's see who could do the work. And for us, the most important thing is accounting. It can get quite complicated. There is quite a big difference between doing internal accounting at a company and doing the internal accounting for companies through us, but you're a consultant. So there's really like this almost hospitality mindset and service mindset that it's not just about doing the work, and managerial mindset. It's not just doing the work. It's being able to delegate the work. It's being able to please the client. It's being able to manage multiple clients. It is truly not for everyone, but when we find people that are good in that role, we've seen people go from basically early career, fresh out of school, through pretty high in management within years. I think if you're just have a knack for it, we could certainly leapfrog you in your kind of other self in an alternate universe being an internal job or public
For sure.
accounting. Yeah.
Yeah, soft skills are really important in client servicing. So I could understand that personality plays a big key in your hiring process. So I guess obviously you probably have a room filled of really personable people. What does your company culture look like? Are you guys hybrid, remote? Tell us a little about your culture and your work environment right now.
Yeah, we've always been remote, even before everyone was remote. The primary reason for that is we just didn't have enough money for an office. To be honest, early on, we were growing the traditional way without outside funding, and we were growing the business based on our own revenues. And I said, Well, probably a five or $10,000 a month office. I could hire more people to help the clients for that, or we could have this pretty office. So we decided not to go that route. So we've always been remote. We do have co-working spaces in different locations because we have folks all over the place that they can go to if they want.
Hmm.
But 99% of the work, maybe 98% of the work, something like that, is done remotely. We do a
Mhm.
company offsite every year. That brings everyone together, everyone in the US together. We have other countries as well, team in India as well, smaller, and they'll do a separate offsite just because of visa things. It's quite difficult to get everyone in the world together. But that's a great day. That's always my favorite day of work the entire year. You get to see everyone in real life that you're kind of zooming with. And I think even though it's only a day or two, it really brings the team together. Everyone really looks forward to it. I look forward to it. And it kind of brings a new energy into the company. Some human contact, I think, is needed. But
Definitely.
for me, hybrid, go in 3 days a week because that's just what I wrote down. Where is that adding value? I think companies may have to choose over time where right now I choose remote. I think most companies down the line are going to choose remote.
Yeah, we find ourselves in a really awkward position. I think a lot of companies have commercial real estate and they have long-term leases. Obviously, the market is asking for remote work, so you're definitely aware of what the market wants. So you're probably attracting great people because of that. So
Mm.
that helps promote employee well-being and work-life balance. So tell us a little bit about maybe some other initiatives that help support those work-life balance needs of prospective hires. And I guess what are you guys doing now to promote that? You mentioned that obviously you have some meetups, you guys meet up in person, which is great. I think the human interaction is missing when you're obviously working remotely. It's really hard. It gets very lonely. So, like, what else are you doing, or is there any benefits or anything that's related to health or supporting that work-life balance?
Yeah, look, so we do that annual offsite, which is this whole big thing, but throughout the year in different geographies where we have individuals, we have a lot we have a large concentration in the Orlando and Tampa area, for example. The teams meet up not quite often, but definitely way more often than annually. We do the same thing in New York and other areas as well, which I think is important. But I think for me, everything boiled down to what I call a North Star that I put in place early on in the life of the company. I always go back to why does everyone job hop? We're in a culture where job hop, it's like 2 years. All right, now that doesn't look weird if I jump now. Now I'm going to jump. 6 months, it looks like, all right, that looks sketchy on a resume, a year even, but it's always this like 2 years, maybe three. Okay, now it looks fair enough. Now I'm going to jump. Why is that? Well, I grew up in a household where my dad had the same job for like 50 years. Why? What did they do different or right? And he wasn't the only one there at 50 years. Everyone had their whole career at the same place. It was a car dealership. What could we do? What does it mean? What could we do to just make that a thing again? And that's really what my goal is, creating a culture where people want to just work there for a really, really long time, not because they're forced to. And I think it just comes down to trust and doing the right thing.
That's a great mindset. Really smart of you. I think that more companies need to have that mindset and they're confused. They're like, well, I don't understand. We didn't get bonuses last year. And now they just left us. That's probably why. Or you also just want them in the office 5 days a week, which I think is tone deaf. I know a lot of companies that are like that. I think in order to attract the best talent in the market, times are changing and we have a lot of technology available to us. And it's
Mhm.
great that you're at the forefront of that. Talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned it's important to have this work-life balance. It's important to have meetups. It's important to have a remote culture. So what other strategies are you doing to retain top talent at your company besides, the remote work? And is there any initiatives, growth initiatives or incentives that can attract people to know that if they do a good job and work hard in your company, what does growth look like and in order to help them stay there for a long time?
When I'm looking to keep folks for a very long time, it's not keeping everyone in the same exact role and complacency. Even though we try to make things as reasonable as possible, we are a business still, right? So we have to bill clients, we have to generate revenue. So it can't be super loosey goosey, but we still do have level of kind of just doing well within the company and accountability. I think people want that too, right? These are nice to haves, working from home. The billable hours that we ask for is well less than public accounting counterpart, quite maybe like 30% less than you'd be asked at a job. So we're asking folks to work a solid 40 hours a week, right, on client work, but not 80. If I see you're working 80 hours a week, we're messed up. I'm not looking for that. Actually, I think that's a bad thing. That probably means you're not delegating enough. We don't want to promote burnout culture. We want people to work a job and do fulfilling work with others that are equally smart and hardworking.
That's awesome. Yeah, if you're looking to get exposure to a startup, work basically alongside of a startup's accounting group and be able to do it on a client service basis and leverage your personality and have the flexibility, this sounds like a really great opportunity for anybody looking to work and stay in the accounting field. Obviously, there's less and less people joining accounting in college. They're going into marketing. There is a talent shortage. So, but it sounds like a really cool opportunity. When I was an accountant in public accounting, I was traveling a lot. Not only are you working 60, 80 hours a week, you have to travel to client sites, but to know that you could do this fully remote and have exposure to really exciting companies like startups and work for you. That sounds like a really great opportunity.
I remember those days too. Oh man. Yeah, I remember in consulting early on, traveling 90% of the time, living in, Marriott Residence Inns all over the place.
Hmm.
It's okay. It could be a fun thing. And I think there's a place for that. But I think there's quite a large subset of people that could easily get those jobs and are hardworking, but their personal situation doesn't allow for that. Mine doesn't. I would never be able to do that again, traveling 90% of the time and not being home. And we want a good home for hardworking people, good work ethic, smart people that are looking for a flexibility within their life.
Awesome. But now tell us a little bit about what your interview process looks like or your hiring process. When you're starting the process, I'm assuming it's being done through Zoom. So tell us a little bit about if
Yeah.
there's any like tests they have to take or they have to come in person eventually to meet. So how do you gauge personality just off of a Zoom? Do you ever get to meet these people before you hire them, or is it
It is.
multiple rounds of Zoom? Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically multiple rounds of Zoom. One funny thing that we did really early on, our process has changed many times and we're still refining
Mhm.
it. I'll put it that way, but I think we're getting better at it. But what I did early on, I put an Excel quiz before even applying in our application. So it was like, apply, write a few basic things about yourself, put your resume, no cover letter. I don't look at cover letters. It doesn't tell me that much. It was a few questions on top of the resume. It tells you about yourself. And then a basic Excel quiz. It's funny, some of our early employees still talk about it, but it was basically a subset of data, a few hundred lines, enough where you can't just add it up. It's kind of mix and match. And you needed to do a sum if to tell me a couple different answers. And if you're good in Excel, it would take like 3 minutes to help weed out candidates that were just blanket applying and didn't actually want the job or care. That worked actually incredibly amazing. Early on in the company, we'd get, instead of 1,000 applicants, some of which would never respond or whatever, we get like 10 or 15 that actually really wanted the job. And that worked incredibly well early on. That's when I was doing all of the phone screenings and things like that, when my time was very finite. We've made it a little bit more traditional now, but we still ask questions. There could be case studies depending on how technical, for example, the role is.
Your business model is very flexible, so I think that even from a startup like myself, when we need to do accounting services, having that outsourced model definitely helps us keep our costs down because obviously once you have a CFO, senior accountant, controller, then you have to pay out bonuses, they have equity. There's so many things that you have to pay out. It's great to have internal employees at a startup like ours, but when it comes to having the flexibility in the event of a downturn, or if funds aren't available to be raised from VCs or angels, we are still able to get our accounting done from your company. So I think that's a really cool opportunity for somebody to work for. It's stable. And if you want exposure to the startup community and have flexibility and remote work, this is certainly a great spot, it sounds like. So, Paul, thank you for joining us. We're really excited to see where Graphite Financial goes. And obviously, you could find them on Cherrypicker. They will be looking for great talent like you. And thanks for joining. Thanks,
Thank you.
Paul. Thanks for coming.
Take care.